Welcome everyone to the new SLA video, and in this video I'm gonna cover 10 mistakes you can avoid as a new player or the returning player. So let's go to the first one. So first one is when you are new player and you are not sure like which unit to pull for. So this custom banner is open to everyone, and you get few of the options like popular on 4 of the units, like which is getting pulled the most. And if you click on recommended, you can see like what units are getting most selection from this. So you might choose, and also some of them which you already know from anime and from reading the manhwa, you might go for them besides like if they are good or not. So first mistake you can do is like you will start pulling for every unit. So you will start going for every unlocking every unit, which is a mistake in this game. So if you are going for every copy of the unit, then you won't have a strong unit to clear contents. So basically you should aim for 4 units, either a team unit. So if you go for the win team, so currently the strongest win team is this one, and we don't have Leonard here, so this is the current you can get from the custom draw, but I won't recommend going for this unit. So these two, so only good viable unit you should get from the custom draw is currently is Goto. So support and the DPS unit both are replaced as of now. So you have better support. You will have a better support either by next update, or you can just use someone else instead of Hansimi. Secondly, Mire got replaced by Leonard, so she's not as strong as the Leonard she is currently, and he is not even in the top 20 character list like the DPS wise. So don't pull for every unit, build the team, either go for water team, wind team, or the light or fire team. Just select a team, then go for pulling for them. So get them A5 to A4 like that. Don't go for pulling every hunter to A0, A0, A0. That won't be the good call. Second thing, using essence. So when you start doing story mode, you will start collecting a lot of essence stones. So these essence stones you can only get from, they give a lot, like from just by doing the story mode you will get a lot of essence, especially by targeting getting these 3 trophies. So you should aim for the 3 trophies in every game mode. So if you get those, you will collect a lot of. So what mistake you can do is you can start using essence on this banner, which is a bad choice. You should always save your essence and go for the limited time banner, not for the custom banner. Third thing is gears. So when you start as a new player, you cannot do dungeons at higher levels. So you have to rely on the events and the gears you get from the events and the free gears. So like gears like this one. So what's the thing with these gears is like if you see on the, like for example, let me pick this one. So if you see, this increases the user's attack and defense by 4%, and at 4th set effect it increases the user's attack and defense by 3, but that is stacks for 8 times. So what mistake you can do is you can put this on a unit like, let's say, Shiorin, but that's a mistake, because if you go on any skills, if you see the damage skills of our max HP, and that gear doesn't do anything for the HP, it buffs attack and defense. So whenever you are using the gear, just first go to the user's skill and then check what that damage of their skill buffs up. So if you go to the damage section, you will see like what user scales her his damage for. So for light team it is defense. So if you see here the scales of defense. So if I go to her, so if you see this is skills of a user's attack. So always check before equipping the gears passive like what damage they scales of, then go for the equipment. Third thing is the gears passive. So if I go to my Sangjinu, so currently I have 4-piece curse and 4-piece expert. This is the like hands down the best set as of now. So if you see, these don't have those attack effect or the HP scaling or defense scale. They have this a base damage increase, so it doesn't matter like if he scales of attack or if he scales of HP. So the set effect, so this 2-piece set effect, 4-piece set effect, 8-piece set effect, so these are very crucial, especially if you are new to the game and won't get, like for sure you won't get the perfect stats you want. So you should aim for the set effects. So if I go to the change here and if I go to, let's say, toughness set, so this is one of the very good set early on in the game. Okay, I don't have the, okay, here. So if you see here, the 2-piece set is like increases the crit rate by 8% and crit damage by 32%. So this, you should aim for this set effect regardless if you have the perfect stats or not, because early game this set effect will matter more than your own stats until and unless you get to the level 75 gear or the level 55 gear, even with plus 5, sorry, plus 4 attack on them or plus 3 attack on them. You should aim for this user set effect, especially if you see this one. So if I go to the helmet, if I reset it, let me go, just select curse, where is it, here. So if you see, some of the units have this defense percentage as the main stack and some of them has additional attack. So it goes the same way, like you should check for the skills, like which skill scales of what. So for Sung Jinwoo, all maximum of his skills scales of his attack. So if you see Jinwoo's attack, here also it is Jinwoo's attack. If you go here also it is Jinwoo's attack. So maximum of his skills scales of attack. So all the stats you want to aim is for the attack. Anything else like defense and HP is not worth it. So you should always go for the attack depending on the unit's skills, like what they scale of. For her, she scales of defense, so if you check on the gear, so all her gear should have defense on it instead of attack. So third thing is, if you are new to game, you will get the bad stat, but first primary option you should go for is aiming for the 50% crit rate. So currently I am 8000 crit rate, but you need only 4500 to maximize your crit rate. So in this game, you can stack multiple crit rate to get even 100% crit rate. So if you have 50% crit rate here, then extra crit rate from the gear, like I showed on the toughness set, that you get 2-piece effect for 8% crit rate. So that will be your stacking, so it will stack on top of your 50% crit rate. So if I go to toughness once again, so if this 2-piece set 8% crit rate increase, so this will stack on top of your 50%. So if you already have 50% crit rate, it will go to 58% crit rate. So you should always aim to get your crit rate to 50% for starters. Then whatever crit rate you get from passive, like the weapon passives, or so for example Plum, if you see it has also a effect for crit rate, so this 4% crit rate. So if you're already using toughness, it will be 58%, then extra 4% from that weapon. And there is multiple weapon skills that also buffs your crit rate. So if you see here as well, so like for the example this one, so this buffs your crit rate by 10% for 12 seconds. So this also stacks on top of your existing crit rate from your stats. So here it will only show what you have from the gear and from the core. The rest of the passive crit rate, it will come from your stacking from the either from passive from the weapon or the gear set effect, or from the shadows. Third is stat points. So what should you do when you are new to the game and what should you invest in? So currently for new players or the returning players, you should go all strength. Don't even consider anything else, just go all strength. You might consider going agility, considering gives you crit rate and crit damage to get to the 50%, but try to get crit rate from your gears instead of here, because gear gives a lot of crit rate compared to what you can get from here. So go for all strength. So once you hit the attack of like 50k or 45k around, then you can considering using this intelligence, which reduces your cooldown, but that is end game min-maxing. But initially you should go all strength. After that is elemental skills. So many of the story modes will have elements. So you have currently 5 elements in the game. So if you go to the any chapters, you will see that boss is weak to certain elements. So if you see this is a recommended element of water, because the boss or the enemies are weak to the water element. So if you go to the skills, let me go to the sunk skills. So weapon wise, if you can use anything, because most of the weapons are either debuffer, or even if they are weak to that element, it does good damage. But especially the skills, and especially the break skills. So if you aren't in disadvantage, so here if you see this skill, let me go to the early on game skills. So this, I have the des elemental marks. So these are very good if you are using against the element weaker, which are weak to that element. So if a boss is weak to water, so if you use this water skill, so it will do a better break damage compared to the dark or any other element. So your break damage also scales of your elemental weakness. So you, second thing is like you can also use blessing stones like this one, which buffs your elemental weakness. So if you are doing using elemental skills, then you can do even more damage with those skills. After that is hunter gears. Let me show you. So same thing I covered here early on. So what I'm saying here is like for this, like obsidian for example, so this scales of a damage dealt, so it doesn't affect users defense or attack, it doesn't scales of any of those. But if I go to any other, so like for example this one, so this only buffs users defense, so you should only have this on the units which are scaling of the defense. So if you, like for example this particular element, so this has additional defense and defense percentage +1. So this is a good set for those units which are scales of a defense. But for example like this one, this has a additional attack, and this gives you crit rate and crit damage. This is not as good as compared to the extra stats you're getting on defense which the unit scales of. So you should always prioritize to check what the unit scales of, that is defense or anything else, then go for what stats you should go for. So for her, like you should go for defense percentage because she scales of a defense. Then on top of that, this increases her skills damage, basic skill damage. So I have a Discord server which covers all the gear which you need on which element and which hunter. So you can join my Discord server as well. So I have a full complete guide for every unit on the server, like which gear goes on which hunter and which stat you should prioritize, as well as the course, like which course should you go for. Then is hunter weapon. So some of the weapons prioritize over having the other weapons. For example, if you go to Thomas weapon, it increases his defense and shield acquisition, which is very good, but you can get away with that with using other weapons. So if you go with her weapon, so she increases her defense by 12% and stacks her defense 6%, that is 60 times. So that is already like 360% defense, so which is better compared to what Thomas has. So if you have to prioritize between which weapon you should choose, and especially getting them to A5 instead of A0, like unlocking the weapon won't do much good versus having them to A5. So maximizing your benefit. So if I go to his weapon, let's see, go to his weapon. So it increases user HP by 12%, and using this particular skills, it increases the crit damage by 30%. But you don't really need that. You can get away with other event weapons or the normal SR weapons. Let me show you if I have any. I probably sold all my SR weapons. Okay, I have some. So like this one. So this increases the elemental damage by 12%, and then it has a passive 10% decrease. So these type of weapons are easier to get. You can, if you do pull force multiple times, you will get multiple copies of this weapons. So prioritize the weapons which gives you better buffs. For example, this support weapons. Support weapons are very good compared to the DPS ones. So some of the DPS need their weapon regardless, like if you have them or not. It's because if you have their weapons, so they buff by a lot. So for example, for support unit, like for example SL, so she increases the user's attack by 12%. That is her own attack. But if you see this additional attack of team member with the highest crit rate increases by 300 per thousand of additional attack. So you can get maximum of 2400 additional attack on any of your support hunters. So this is better compared to if you go for a DPS unit, which like say Goto again. Like, so if you have to prioritize, go for the support weapons first. Not all the support weapons I'm saying, but for DPS, like, see if you are getting better value compared to the ones which you have. Then after that is prioritizing DPS over support. So if you are new to the game, you will see like which units are the meta units and which does a lot of damage. But the thing with DPS units is like they get replaced very soon. So after 2 to 3 months, like if I pulled for, let's say, Mire, I pulled for her because she does good DPS, but after 2 to 3 updates she will get replaced, because that's how gacha works. So what you should aim for the support units. I'm not saying don't pull for the DPS unit. You should at least get one of them DPS unit, but you should prioritize the support units, especially A1 version of Min. Just A1 is enough. You don't need multiple copies, because at A1 he increases the crit rate and crit damage of all the team members. So even if so DPS can get replaced, but even if support gets replaced, you will still have use of him. But you won't have much use of the DPS because he got replaced. But you will still have the use of the support units. So currently the strongest support unit you have is either Melin, Min and Ayla. So these three are the best support unit for Sung Jinwoo. For fire team and the guild boss, you have Isil and Hansim. So these two are amazing as well. So for these 5 support units, so these are better, like if you prioritize them over getting all the DPS units, considering like if you already have water and then you again pulled for the collab hunters, that is water DPS, but you don't have the support unit like either Alicia or anything else. So that is a bad choice. You should always go for the support unit, like considering you already have one DPS, instead of going for the multiple DPS. So as of now, like I already mentioned, these 5 are amazing support units. So if I have to rank them, then Melin will always be the first one. Then for her, so he requires the least investment because only you need one copy of him. So basically you pull for one and then you get another copy of him. So A1 is the sweet spot. You don't need anything else from him. Then the next advancement you get the big buff is the 85. So A1 is more than enough for him. Melin, you need A3. Higher the copies, the better the buffs, and you can use her with any team. So she increases the attack and defense. So she can be used with both the teams with skills of attack or with skills of defense. She gives MP consumption, so she recovers MP. So she is good for guild boss or the long battles which requires MP. She is very good for the dark team as well as a solo team which doesn't need dark team, especially because she has a passive which resets the cooldown of the characters. So if you see, uses the power goes of the second character in the team by 60% and decreases the cooldown of ultimate skill by 20 seconds. So this is a like very big one for the team which does very high damage on the ultimate. So she buffs the she makes them spam their ultimate very often. So that will be all for this video. You so these are the 10 things you should avoid as a new player or the returning player. So if you have any doubt, you can write in the comment section, and I will cover shadows, cores, remnant, and there's a lot of things to cover in this one. But these are the like initially you should just focus on the story mode and building the hunters right, so you don't have to redo them again later. Thank you all. Bye.